Hey everyone, welcome to Force with Luke. In today's video, we're going to discuss 10 mistakes that I made as a Salesforce administrator early in my career. The whole purpose of this video is so that you avoid making the same mistakes that I did and some tips and tricks along the way. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of my future uploads. And while you're at it, you can check out my blog, www.forcewithluke.com. Hope you enjoy the video. Number one on our list, and to kick things off, we have the login page. And this is where people often fall short because they're trying to log into an environment which doesn't correspond to the correct URL. If you're logging into a sandbox environment and you are on www.login.salesforce.com, you are not going to get into Salesforce and you will be presented with the lovely error like this. And I'm sure everyone's been in exactly the same scenario where you're trying to log in for ages, pressing, and then it doesn't work. Only to find out you're using the wrong URL. So first mistake, use the correct URL for the environment that you're logging into. You can use password managers such as LastPass or Organizer, which I'll leave a link down in the description. They basically manage all of your logins and you can log into Salesforce at the touch of a button rather than having to input the username and password manually. Number two on our list is keeping a clean environment. And this is extremely important, especially if you have external consultancies or other Salesforce administrators that are also looking at your Salesforce org. If config is no longer being used, it has no need to be there. It can be deleted, it can be removed. It just avoids then confusion if people are looking at it. There's a great tool in Salesforce which is called the Optimizer. And I'll show it on screen now how you can get to it. If you go to Setup menu, then you go to Optimizer and you click on Optimizer. There's then a button to create a PDF. If you click on that, you're generated a 78-page document of all things in your org. If you're about to hit limits, whether you're using too many fields, everything to do with custom objects, custom fields, custom config, 78 pages of pure joy to read through. So do that, that's a great place to start, and then you can begin cleaning up your environment. For number three, we have descriptions. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've logged into an environment and there's no descriptions for anything. This just means you have to trawl through either documentation, or if there's not documentation, which sometimes there isn't, then you just have to try and work it out by looking into Salesforce and trying to figure out why somebody would have put that field there or would have put that workflow there. All you have to do is fill out the description field. Put in some comments why you're creating that piece of config. Put in some comments if there's automation running off the back of it. Just put in whatever thought you had for the reason that you were creating that piece of config in the first place. Then somebody else that's looking at it in the future will understand why it was put there, and they don't have to waste valuable time trying to find it out for themselves. Number four, we have naming conventions. And this is a fairly simple one and sort of ties back into the one we just mentioned with descriptions, but that's that you should be following naming conventions when you create anything within Salesforce. Whether it's an Apex class, trigger, workflow rule, custom field, custom validation, there's a great QUIP document, which will be up on the screen now, showing you all sorts of naming conventions and what you should follow with real life examples. And this QUIP document was generated by Salesforce themselves, so something that you should definitely be following if you're creating any config within your org. There's also a great Trailhead if you don't really know what naming conventions are or what they're supposed to be or why you would use them. I'll leave all the links down in the description so you can check them out, but you should definitely be using naming conventions for anything which you create. Okay, number five on our list, and halfway through our top 10 mistakes, is using standard configuration over custom configuration. And what I mean by this is don't reinvent the wheel. Don't create custom objects or custom functionality that's already covered by Salesforce standard functionality. And there's a few reasons why you would want to choose standard over custom. A couple of them are you're not making use of Salesforce release cycles. Salesforce has 3 yearly releases in which they take all the ideas from the idea exchange that everybody from the community has voted on. they then upgrade their existing product set. Now, if you use custom, you're not making use of that, as I say. When they do their releases, it's to do with standard existing products. It's not going to cover your custom code, your custom objects, your custom fields. So as well as that, you're not making use of the App Exchange. And if you don't know what the App Exchange is, it's sort of like an Apple App Store, but for Salesforce, in which you can download applications, add-ons to existing standard functionality. There's loads of apps, and I'll link the link down in the description. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but you're not going to make use of those if you are going down the custom route. You're also spending a lot more time, whether it comes to creating that custom piece of content or creating something which has already been done and already existing within Salesforce. If you then need to make changes to anything that you do, it's going to require a dev, or it's going to require more time for somebody to understand that piece of code, custom functionality, rather than having all of the standard documentation stuff that comes with Salesforce. So if you can, go down the standard route, go down the App Exchange route, but try and avoid custom if you can. There will obviously be scenarios where you need to choose custom over standard because something just purely doesn't exist. And in those cases, it's definitely great and fine to use custom. You're always better off using standard over custom. Number 6 on our list is cluttered page layouts. This one is close to me because every single client that I go to says to me, we have no idea why this field is on the page. We have no idea what it does. We don't want to fill it out. It's a required field and they have to fill it out, but they don't know what values to put in, hence skewing all of the data. Now, there's no excuse, especially with Salesforce Lightning, to have cluttered page layouts and cluttered pages where nobody can find anything. Salesforce makes it super easy now to segment the data and only show visible to those who actually need access to the data. For example, if I'm a sales user, I want access to my opportunities, to my leads. I would need all of that information, the ones that I need to see most, at the top of the page, in the center. And it might be, if I'm a sales user, I'm a mobile user. Now with Salesforce Lightning, you can save page layouts as a mobile layout as well as a desktop layout. And I'll show you on the screen now a sweet little trick in Google Chrome, which means you can turn your browser into a mobile layout. And you can see and scroll through the same way that you would with a mobile device. So if your users are heavily reliant on mobile, this is a good little trick to use to see what their user experience would be. And that's another thing to take into account is user experience. Make sure your users are loving Salesforce. If they don't want to see fields, try and make it so they don't have to see the fields. They want to see data which is only relevant to them. So make sure your page layouts are nice and precise, nice and clean. Everybody has access to the data they need access to. For number 7, we have too many profiles. There is no need to create that many profiles in Salesforce. Profiles should be your minimum permission set that you're giving to users. You can then open it up or close it down depending on the needs and wants of that user. For example, if I have 1 or 2 users that come to me and say, I can't see this field, then you need to understand the sharing model of that environment first of all. Is everything locked down? Is everything open? Is it a private sharing model? Is it external sharing? You need to understand all of this before you begin to answer these questions. There's some great videos on YouTube which go through the whole sharing and visibility stuff. I'm currently studying for the Sharing Visibility Designer exam, so if you have any questions, feel free to ping me. But understanding that sharing model, the pyramid which is on the screen now, sort of shows you how we can lock down and open up profiles, but creating additional profiles is not necessarily the right answer. In some cases it will be, but if you can avoid limiting creating as many profiles as you want or need, then it's going to be much better for your environment in the long run. For number 8, we have allowing poor data. And this is one which, again, seems to happen quite often, and sometimes it's hard to control, but Salesforce has made it a lot easier with things like duplication management. And when I used to go and do demos for clients, I always used to say, make sure you use the global search functionality first. So if I want to go into Salesforce and enter any record, regardless of object, whatever it may be, make sure to use the global search bar at the top of Salesforce first to see if that record already exists. If it does exist, then you have no need to create a new one. You can use the existing record. If it doesn't exist, then you're fine to go ahead and create it. And this is stopping the issue of duplication right from the start. If this is drilled into their mindset that they need to search before they find a record, then it's going to make your environment a lot cleaner. Salesforce obviously has things like duplication management as well built in, and there'll be a video on the screen showing you how you can check out duplication rules. If you go into Setup menu, search for duplication, you can then set up matching rules and duplication rules. So for example, if you want to limit allowing 2 contacts with exactly the same email, then you can set up those rules, and when you go to enter 2 contacts, it will come up with an error message saying, one already exists, would you like to use this one? Or would you like to continue putting in the record that you're creating currently? There's also a lot of other tools, third-party tools, which you can use on the App Exchange, and I'll leave a link down to some in the description. You can go free, you can go paid. There is loads and tons of stuff out there on duplication management. So make sure all of your data in your Salesforce environment is clean, whether that be you have to trawl through a huge Excel sheet of thousands of data and dedupe the data before it's even loaded into Salesforce. I promise you it will be better in the long run. Make sure your data is clean, and then you'll have a lovely clean environment and everybody's happy. Number 9, and we're almost at that lucky 10 number, is disabling automation and validation when doing data loads. Now, this might not seem a mistake or an issue to most people, but I can tell you if you've got an email alert that goes out to 100,000 people because you've just made an update to records via data loader, then it might become an issue. And there's a nifty trick that you can use when you're setting up validation rules, process builders, that I'll show you now on the screen. As you can see, it's creating a checkbox in either custom settings or custom metadata, which you can then reference in your processes, your validation rules, and all it is a toggle. And it's on a profile basis. So essentially all of your system admins, if they're the ones which are doing the data load, you go in, you toggle that on or off, and then that piece of process, that validation rule won't fire. And this is a great way to avoid that mistake of, like I said, triggering thousands of emails or whatever process you have running in your org. If you want a more in-depth video on this checkbox, then I'm happy to create one, or a blog post, then just let me know. But it's a great little trick, and hopefully it helps you in the future. Number 10, the final mistake on our list today is too many system administrators. And this comes back to the profile overload mistake. Giving system administrator profile is not the answer. Is not, right? If you take away anything from this video, giving system admin is not the answer to any sharing issues that you may have. If somebody can't see some fields, this comes back. Understand the sharing model, understand how to open it up, whether it be a permission set or something on their profile. Giving them the system administrator opens them up to a whole world of things which you shouldn't be able to do as a standard user. Trust me, you will regret it. People are they like to click things, they like to press buttons, and it can end up in catastrophic events. So don't give people system administrator profile. Understand the sharing model, give them the access that they need, but not system admin, okay? Not system. And just when you thought we were finished and you've finally got to the end of the list, there's one more mistake that people like to make, and that is making changes in a production environment. Never make changes in a production environment. It will only cause issues and it won't be good for anyone. So make sure you understand sandboxes, set up your sandboxes. I'll leave a link down in the description for all the different types of sandboxes and the license types. Some of them are paid, so just make sure you don't fall into that trap. But you can have free sandboxes to test out your configuration, prior to deploying it then into a production environment. And you can choose to deploy however you wish, whether it be change sets or you have a DevOps strategy. That's down to you. I'm not going to go into that too much, but make your changes in a sandbox environment, never in a production environment. So there we have it. 11 mistakes that admins like to make. And it's not just admins. Let me say this on camera. It's not just admins, it's Salesforce architects, it's technical architects, it's developers. It's not just admins who make these mistakes. The whole purpose from this video is to try and avoid making the same ones that I did, and hopefully this helps someone along the way. I'm still learning with the whole YouTube thing. I took a couple of elements from the last video. It was a bit dark, it was a bit dreary. I'm still learning to speak to the camera, so bear with me. But hopefully you like this video a little bit more. I'm stood up so I can move around. Hopefully not too much in the video. But if you enjoyed it, please share, please like, please comment. There'll be a little animation showing you what you need to do here. But thanks very much for watching. I've been Force with Luke. Look forward to the next video.